Coach Kara, and welcome back to Kara's Love Techniques. So, on this channel, we like to cover all types of relationships. And when I say that there are many types of relationships, there are many. And today we just so happen to be talking about ADHD in relationships and how to better understand your partner. All right, so for those of you who are unfamiliar with ADHD or neurodevelopment disorder, it is a type of disorder to where the brain does not process information properly as normally as it should. So, which means that their brain is wired a little differently from others, to say the least. That's just to put it simple. So if you have had some sort of indication or seen signs and symptoms that your partner may possibly have ADHD, or you just need more ways to know how to cope with this sort of disorder, well, today that's what we're talking about, okay? I thank you all so much for joining me. As always, let's get started. So I just want to cover just a few of the main characteristics that are associated with the neurodevelopment disorder. And with this disorder, it is driven by dopamine. Okay, so that is one of the main functions behind this sort of disorder. It thrives off dopamine, high levels. All right. And with that, if you've met this person and you notice right away that everything seems not intense, but a little impulsive, and it's fast moving, everything's fast paced, it almost seems like you're in bliss, like you're on cloud nine, and it's just everything just moving so fast, but you're enjoying yourselves and you're like, whoo, okay. So that may be from impulsiveness. Impulsive behavior is one of the characteristics that is associated with ADHD. And it is most common when they are dating in the early stages. You know, when everything's new and it's fresh and it's just like, wow, I just got a dose of something that feels good. And this is what puts them on that high. So you may in the beginning find your dating experience a little intense, even overwhelming if you're not the more extroverted type of person. And with that, if your relationship does not persist with this level of high energy and just being totally interesting, you're going to run into a pitfall very fast. Because what this individual needs is someone who is consistently interesting. And the reason why you need that is because initially they're only hyper focused on you, which is another main characteristics of an ADHD individual. They become so hyper focused on their new person that it kind of consumes their time, because they're always thinking about you. They are making plans for the next date. They're communicating. They're very active. They're interested. And what happens when they begin to realize that you're not as interesting as you could be, or consistently, because you know we have to get back to reality and continue to work, and you know life gets in the way, so it's not going to always be fun and games. It's not going to always be interesting. And that person may begin to realize that as the weeks go on that, well, things are becoming a bit mundane, and that is a problem. So you may begin to realize that your person is experiencing inattentive behaviors. They may be with you, but they may not be as focused on you as they once were. Like if you two are together and you're just kind of just having a regular day, nothing's going on. They may play on their phones or try to find something else to hyper focus on. And then that's when you begin to realize that, hey, my person hasn't been communicating with me lately. Well, why is that? Again, they need that consistency with those dopamine levels. If they do not have one thing in particular to hyper focus on, to give all of their attention to, they will direct that in another direction. So you may have been having very few replies, phone calls not being answered, and then you come over and it's like, wait, whoa, what is this? And you've begun to see that they've created some sort of clay project they've been working on. They found a new interest. Is this what you've been doing? Yes. Is this why you haven't returned my calls? Yes. And if you have experienced things like that, you should be very grateful. Because see, what typically happens with this individual, when they begin to feel a bit of boredom, they have no qualms about finding someone else to keep that level going, or somebody else's, like several people. Because if one person decides to fall off the interesting plane, well, then they'll find someone else to pick up the slack. And I know, I get it. And look, it's not intentional. It's like an addict chasing a high. They have to have that. Because see, what happens when they don't have that consistent level of entertainment, fun, you guys aren't, planning things, you're not having a social gathering, a cookout, you're not planning for that as the time going, you're just not really doing anything. It's just becoming a bit routine. What happens is they hit this plateau and they may experience high levels of anxiety or even depression. And you may have even gone over to their place, or maybe you reside with your person and you've noticed that he or she hasn't been cleaning, they've been neglecting responsibilities, they're just completely inattentive to anything that is significant or of importance, a daily routine, chores, that sort of thing. So you may notice that, and it's not because they don't want to do it, it's because the way their brain is set up, it has not given them whatever it needs to put the effort into doing it. So you may see that lack of motivation, and they may come off as lazy when they're not. So it's not like you and I, like if I plan tomorrow to go in and redo my closet, I automatically know I can do that, as well as do laundry. I can just put my mind to it, get in, tackle it. But for them to face that and for their brain to function in that direction, it just may not happen at times. And it may come off as them just being complacent and lackadaisical. And that's not the case. It's just that their brain isn't functioning the way it should be to carry out any of those projects. So again, what happens is they may fall into a slump of, temporary bouts of anxiety or maybe even deep depression if they just can't find their way out of it. And you will find that some of these persons, they may be on medication if it's severe, but for most people, they can cope with it. And if you notice that your person is experiencing this and they're not expressing it to you, there's a reason for that, and I'll touch on that momentarily. But here's what you can do, guys. So if I am speaking to you, the individual, if you find that you cannot carry out something, you've tried the sticky notes, but it's so challenging to even remember to look at the sticky notes to do it, because it actually takes you wanting to look at the sticky note to do that, to remind you. So it's just a freaking process and a nightmare for you. So, and if you haven't already thought of this, all right, so this is what I got for Christmas. It is called a Google Nest. And there's a little assistant inside. It looks like this. That's the box. There's a little assistant inside that will help you. Fortunately, you can connect this to any smart device, your phone, your TV, your smart car, and this little voice will follow you. So if you need to go to the bakery by 2:30 and you need to be reminded every half hour, this voice will follow you wherever you go. So if you happen to be in your car and you're along the way, but you take a detour to go to the gaming store or someplace else, it's going to remind you and consistently remind you. I don't use it for that. My daughter bought it for me for Christmas. I only use it for, to listen to music. But it will consistently remind you until you remember and then dismiss it. So I feel like that is a great tool to have if you don't mind being told what to do consistently. But I think that is one way that you can just have that feel that I know I'm going to get it done because I can rely on this voice to continually to remind me, even when I forget. Okay, so if you are the partner, that is something that you can recommend. I think it's quite affordable. I'm not quite sure how much she paid for it, but I think it will be very beneficial to this type of individual. Okay, so seeing their feels and knowing exactly what it is that they feel is equally as challenging. So to express that I don't know how to make my body clean out the closet is very stressful for them to articulate to anyone. It's like, I don't know is their answer. Even with their feels, how they feel about you, how they feel about the relationship, what are they currently feeling? It is challenging to sort of pinpoint what it is that they're actually feeling and experiencing. So that is a major challenge in relationships. So if you've been trying to get your person to express themselves, in a manner to where it can be understood, and you just really haven't got that, but yet deep down in your heart, this person truly cares about you and they are active in your life, they're there, but you're confused about their feelings. And you may be that way for a long time until they can get themselves together to articulate that. One method of doing this is just putting it out there in a manner that it can be understood and leaving it. Simply just leaving it there, not focusing on it, not arguing, just leaving it with this person and then coming back to it later. Have you had time to think about what we talked about? How do you feel about that now? See, you have to allow them time to process. Their brains do not process normally. So it takes some time. And even with communication, if you are trying to always call them and talk to them, and yet the feedback is just minimal or is misunderstood, perhaps you should try texting. This way they can see the text. It gives them time to process what it is that you've just stated, all of these reminders and blah, 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 yada, 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 to process that and then reply at their own leisure. I think that is the best method to take with such an individual. Okay? And being very understanding that it's going to take a lot of patience being with this type of person. There isn't anything wrong with them. Look, they know how to have sexy time and be romantic. They're just like us. They just have just this little hiccup. They kind of like gets in the way of everything. Work, school, simply concentrating. And so they may find themselves like playing games like video games or anything that can keep their mind trained to just focus, which is their major challenge. So it's going to take a partner who truly understands this and that and doesn't feel bad for being with such an individual. Now, look, if you want to try to judge this type of person or this type of relationship, you probably shouldn't, because there are a plethora of people out there who are loyal to these types of people who manipulate, abuse, and cheat on them and make them feel less than. They're in these one-sided relationships, giving all of their energy and loyalty to. So just miss me with, I don't want to deal with this type of person type of energy, because the next person you're going to run into is going to be 5 times worse. I promise you. Okay? So I'm not wishing that on you, but that's just what's out there. For most people, for most experiences, that's what people are beginning to realize, even those who have been in relationships for 25 years. All right, so this is just another type of relationship that's going to need deep patience, understanding, wanting to help the person, wanting to engage and involve them, knowing what keeps them afloat. And you yourself may fall into, a little place to where you're not feeling all that well. Well, you have to work on yourself. Allow space and time between the two of you so that you both can recharge and so you can get back to planning and having fun, And that's kind of the way life should be anyway. No relationship should just fall to complacency, boredom, mundane. It shouldn't. You should always be planning to do something that involves two people as one to just explore life. And this is what this individual needs, okay? A lot of patience. I can't stress that enough. But yeah, so if your person has had some of these characteristics, there are more, and it does vary from each individual. Like I say, some cases are a little more severe than others, but for the most part, it's just identifying what those symptoms and behaviors are so that you can take further action into, just making your love life better. Okay? Well, guys, I hope that has been helpful. Please reach out to me if you need further assistance. My information will be linked down below. But I thank you for joining me. That is all for now. Until next time.